Okay. We do have a quorum. The signing sheet was circulated. And so the first item that's actionable, approval of February 2025 minutes. Is there a pleasure of the board?
I do expect comments also. But, all right, on the treasurer's report section, it said that I wanted the line, about the credit card, so we can wrap that up. And then on resolution 2025-2, that didn't unanimously carry.
Thank you.
Yep. And then I just have a comment about the line of credit. We did reach out to Chase and they basically said M&T is going to blow anybody out of the water. Don't worry about going anywhere else. Basically, the response we got that. So we did do a little bit more due diligence to make sure we were getting the best rate, but even Chase has said M&T has got you in a good spot.
And we can address a little more of that. Yep, number 9. Great, thank you.
And Dan, you had
Yeah, on second page, item number 4, accepting the land bank commission grant, second paragraph. Dan Kessel inquired about BENLIC's capacity to do the more home rehabs as vacant abandoned homes are sprung in. My question was, is there enough capacity to take on these homes or this extra work on top of Adams Street and Cheektowaga and the infill? It didn't have to do with the negative impacts on surrounding communities. It had to do with your ability just to handle all those projects simultaneously. So it's really just staff depth more than, we want to get them started and we want to do that. But that was my concern. So.
any other comments? On the board?
Motion
Approved. Thank you. And the motion by Jeremy is in second.
as amended, right?
Yeah.
I'll second.
Second by Dan. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Treasurer's report. Pages 9 through 10.
Pages 9 through 10 in your package. Thank you. This report was also distributed along with the agenda last week. Page 9, just a few of the, this is just typical, the monthly business, as BENLIC is operating today. The first transactions, dealing with the ARP program. We also have, on the 18th of February, a $50,000 deposit from, HCR. That is a quarterly, administrative grant, which is nice. So we're getting $200,000 a year strictly for administration for 3 years from HCR. And the rest are just typical, day-to-day business. So any questions on the report, we're happy to respond to. We have BENLIC money is divided into, at this point, about 7 different categories. We have City of Buffalo ARPA accounts and treasury bills, Erie County ARPA accounts and treasury bills. We have a separate utility account. We have a day-to-day M&T bank checking account, a CD, and a treasury bill. So in total, BENLIC assets at $6,559,893.05. And the following page 10 is just a further breakdown, which was requested by Chairman Bileski a few months ago. So what that does is it breaks down all of our expenses again in January, but it also attributes it to our programs. So whether it's an operating expense, a land bank initiative expense, an ARPA, city, or county expense, just so you have some further transparency there for how the expenses break down. So. And I think that's it.
Thank you. Are there any questions or pleasure of the board?
Just because I guess I haven't really looked at it that closely on prior, obviously, but your debit and credits are flipped. I think you're doing the banking side instead of like when money comes in, it should be a debit, not a credit. That's like bank accounting, not real accounting.
Okay, maybe a follow-up convert because
Yeah.
it's the same, nothing changed, right? As we've been doing it.
Like I said, it looks like on the bank side they do debit credit that way, but when you do accounting, you debit for revenues and credit for expenses.
It's
Yeah, no, like I said, I just noticed it now. I probably should have noticed it.
Okay,
previously,
we'll
but
follow up. Yeah,
I,
absolutely. Thank you.
Just as a note.
That confuses me. Not an account. That's.
No idea. Okay.
Any other comments or pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Adam, is there a second? Second by Karen, you, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried, and just, we can introduce, what, why don't you go, Justin?
Yeah, well, I was literally the next portion of our agenda today is all of our authorities budget office requirements. So welcome to our new board member. And as a new board member, that you will have to do some ABO compliance, take a course so I can follow up with you. So maybe, but if you want to introduce yourself and maybe just a little bit about your history, how you came to Lackawanna, that would be great for the board.
My name's Michael Milks. I'm the assessor for the city of Lackawanna, and I started last week. Before that, I was the assessor for Cheektowaga for the last 2 years. Then Cheektowaga for 11 years in the assessor's office. Some capacity, right?
Okay, have you ever been on a board where the authorities budget office with that kind of ABO compliance?
No.
Right. So has anyone, Ray, I know you're a newer member. Have you done your ABO compliance? Everybody has to go through it. And I know some people sit on other boards where they've already gone through it. It's actually pretty informative and interesting. It takes 1 to 2 hours, I'm going to say. So we'll make sure to follow up with all of you to get your compliance training. I think most of the other board members have gone through it in the past. So Ray, Nadine, you've probably done it for
Doing it
other,
for,
yeah.
let's see,
Yeah.
I think I'm scheduled next month.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. So we'll follow up with you about your ABO compliance training. So as this being the annual meeting, which is every March for BENLIC, we typically just review. We have to complete an annual report. So there are hard copies on the table of that report. If anybody would like to take it with them for review, we will also send it to the board electronically. But it's essentially the same information year after year. The results of our audit, which I just skipped our independent audit section. I'll go back to that. I missed it. The results of the audit will be in the annual report. Our procurement report, which generally just discusses any properties that we did acquire over the course of the year. The investment report, which would just document CDs, treasury bills, which are really the only kinds of investments that BENLIC, that our land bank would be allowed to make. Property report, which would just, again, give you an overview of BENLIC's inventory, performance measurements, and then the last item, our board of directors evaluations. So we've sent that evaluation out, I believe, Ben, a couple of times. Twice. So we are looking for the board members to please complete that so we can upload it to the ABO by the end of March. We do have until March 31st, so we're not out of compliance or anything,
I
but
require 3 reminders.
but yeah, so you'll all be getting another reminder to complete that. And you've again, the BENLIC board does also hear about this information during the course of the year. So this is our 2024 report. You'll see the results of the audit. You've already seen our budget, which typically gets proposed in October. So that came to the board in October. And our performance measurements, usually at the end of the year, we do a presentation of everything that BENLIC accomplished during the course of the year. So that was done in December. So really this annual report is not new information, but it's certainly a great compendium if you'd like to take a hard copy, or, you'll get it electronically as well. So we would just ask that we're asking for an approval of that annual report at this time.
Okay, I would note before for our comments, there were a number of amendments to the bylaws over the last few years. So I without comparing it, I'm assuming this is the most up-to-date version of the bylaws with all the appropriate amendments that.
So Matt and Alexis, yes, take care of our annual report. The answer is yes. Those are the. the newest and latest and greatest. Before, I made the mistake of skipping over our audit. Do you want me to do the audit before asking the board to approve, submitting it for the annual report? We can go backwards if
Yeah,
you're
why don't
more
we
comfortable with
wait
that.
for Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
So, in front of you, you have a short PowerPoint presentation from our auditors at Drescher and Molecular. So Drescher has been doing our audit, for the last several years. This year, we not only had, a regular audit, but we also had an ARP audit, because we did expend more than $750,000 of ARP money. So we actually went through a sort of a dual process. The good news is that our audit report was completely clean. We had a meeting of our audit and finance subcommittee. That's Jeremy Toth, who chairs, Adam McNeil on the committee. We had Seth Hennard from Lumsden and McCormick, myself and Alexis, and and Ray, of course, the Commissioner of Finance from the city of Buffalo. We all met with Drescher to review their results. And because the audit was clean and no extra comments, the subcommittee felt comfortable that Drescher did not need to be present to do a presentation today. And Jeremy, I don't know if you want to just
No,
speak
I mean,
a
that's
little bit
exactly,
to that.
exactly correct. It was a clean report. It wasn't pretty clean. It was totally clean. There was nothing really to report. So I think he said it pretty straightforward. And I told him I didn't think they needed to be here. And if we needed to approve it, but I guess we don't. We
Yeah.
just need to accept
It's
it.
just an acceptance, and so sometimes in an audit, there might be a note in a manager's letter where they're making a comment regarding internal controls or practices or cybersecurity. So we had absolutely no comments really or suggestions. I don't even think that there will be a management letter or
It doesn't sound like there would be any.
right. Right. So, so that's good. So I might just want to go over a couple of highlights with everybody. If you turn to page 4 of the presentation, you can get an idea of, for example, of just some of the most important things, which is our immediate cash on hand at approximately 2.7 million. Our total investment. So those would be things that are in the form of either a CD or a treasury, as that's the only kind of investment that BENLIC can hold, is at about $3.5 million. That does include ARP funding from either the city and the county and also BENLIC's unrestricted investments. And then assets held for sale, meaning those are the structures and vacant lots that we have in our inventory. And that is the auditor's estimate of the value of those assets that BENLIC holds. Liabilities, where you see amount due to municipalities, that has to do with the amount of taxes that were attached to any of the structures or vacant lots that BENLIC still has in its inventory. So technically, that money is owed once BENLIC disposes of the property. So in other words, we're holding all of those properties still and have not disposed of those properties. And then unearned revenue at 4.127 million, which I forgot to ask what that means. So Adam, I need you to tell me what unearned revenue means.
My understanding that would be the ARPA money that we've gotten that we haven't spent any money.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, forgot. So turning over to page,
Once we do the work, then it turns into revenue, basically just sitting.
okay. Perfect. Any questions there on any of those items on page 4? If we take a look at page 5, just shows a little bit of a chart with regard to BENLIC activity over the past 3 years. So the red is property sales, the green is grant revenue, and the purple are interest earnings. So the BENLIC model has been changing over the past 3 years. So 2022 was really the last year that BENLIC acquired any property at all from the auction process. So in 2022, you can see that we had $1.4 million in revenue from selling property we had more structures, more properties in our inventory that we were able to sell, and then the grant revenue was lower. 2023, we were moving from more of an auction structure sale to actually acquiring vacant lots and building. So that was a big planning process as we planned our new construction at Adams Street, and then started to think about building the 50 new houses for ARP. So we had lower property sales, also lower grant revenue in 2023, and then just the beginning of some interest earnings as interest rates started to go up in the second half of 2023. Then 2024, you can see a big flip where our grant revenue is a combination of more land bank initiative money. So we are getting about $2 million at this point every 18 months from HCR. Which is great. And then there's also about 950,000 of that 2 million is the ARP money that has flowed through the corporation in 2024. So much more of that cash flow to come. But that comprises that green line. And then again, in 2024, more interest earnings of 227,000 as interest rates have been up at about 4 or 5%. So any questions there on that page? Just do a couple more quickly so you get an idea of where all of our money is coming from. Page 6 is kind of the division between cost of sales and administrative costs. So cost of sales is basically BENLIC does a lot of oversight of rehab and new construction. So that basically means we're putting, as in 2022, we put about $1.8 million into rehabbing and renovating property. And then the other expenses were related to administrative expenses. 2023, it was again less money cost of sales because we just had fewer properties to work on. And in 2024, it was a pretty even split because again, 2024 was a big planning year for that 50 property ARP project, which is scheduled to begin next month, the 50 home construction. So that's the division of cost of sales and admin. And then finally, page 7, we can just take a look at our net assets, which have in 2022 and 23 at between 3.8 million and then down to about 3.3 million in 23. Again, fewer structures. So we had fewer assets. And then now in 2024 with the new grants and new ARP funding, that number is trending upward. So we are in a strong financial position, it seemed, from the auditors and had a clean audit. So all of this information, when Drescher, once the board accepts, Drescher would release their financial statements, and then we will place those into the annual report.
So that would be an acceptance of the audit under number 4, or
The audit doesn't have to be, it's not an official action item, correct? It's just,
that's why I just wanted to verify because you're saying once we accept it, so that's why.
you accept, and then the annual report is an action item.
Were we done with the annual reports? Because we went back and forth and just want to make sure that we are done.
We are done.
So for item number 4, we've accepted it just by going over it. And then item number 5, approval of the 2024 annual report. Is there a pleasure of the board?
I'll move.
Thank you, Jeremy. Is there a second? Second, Catherine. Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Approved. Thank you. Number 6.
Okay, number 6, approval of corporation policies. It's considered a best practice that a board approves policies on an annual basis, even if there are no changes. So the vast majority of our policies, investment and deposit, code of ethics, procurement, and disposition policies are unchanged. But we would still, as a best practice, we would appreciate the BENLIC board approving those policies in one action item. The new policy is the internal controls policy, and that is in front of you at your table. So we circulated this internal controls policy either over the last couple of months, I believe. And what you will see highlighted is a response to a board information request. So the board reviewed the internal controls policy and also asked for information to be added with regard to credit card use and with regard to if a line of credit is authorized, how would that line of credit be used? What would the internal control policy be to use that line of credit? So we've added both of those items to the internal control policy that's already been circulated. So under number 3, line of credit, this doesn't obligate the board at all to authorize a line of credit. It simply says that the land bank may establish a line to manage cash flow, fund operational needs, or support strategic initiatives. And the establishment of this line must be approved by a majority vote of the board. Usage is kept more generic. It just shall not exceed the maximum limit of the line approved by the board, but any draw on the line must be approved by 2 of the following: the chairperson, the treasurer, and the executive director. So any draw on the line would need to be approved by 2 people. Any request to draw on the line should include the following information: checking balances, credit utilization, and the purpose of the draw. Reporting and monitoring, the executive director shall provide a quarterly report to audit and finance detailing the usage of the line, including outstanding balances, interest accrued and repayment schedules, and then repayment of the line shall be made in accordance with the terms. So we circulated this draft to our counsel, John Sid, who approved. We also sent it over to Adam, our treasurer, who also got a look at it and seem to feel comfortable with that line of credit policy. So with that, we felt comfortable enough to bring it to you today. The second change is with regard to credit card use, and the credit card expenses, is on page 2 of the internal controls report, and we've added a simple line that all credit and debit purchasing card expenses shall be reviewed by the treasurer and pre-approved by a payment authorization signatory. So that basically means that no matter what the balance of the card, because Adam typically reviews bills that are over 5,000, no matter what, the treasurer will now receive the credit card bill every month, and he'll be able to review all of the individual expenses. Which he seemed to be comfortable with as well. So, so with those 2 items, we would then ask the board to approve or to accept and take action on the internal controls policy, but also all the other policies as unchanged.
And for Mike's benefit, at the last meeting, we had quite a robust discussion regarding the line of credit itself, the need for or hopefully not a need for a line of credit. Given that the large amount of ARPA monies that are coming in from the county and the city, trying to front end some of their monies to get into the spending. So, however, in the meantime, wanted to make sure this was brought up, that we have something in place. So with, yeah, go ahead.
So, we're all doing our annual meetings, and I'm thinking about hearing that and the policies that are included in hearing that I don't see here. Sexual harassment policy. What else did we do, Dan? Is there a sexual harassment policy?
It's in our
Personnel.
It's in the personnel.
Right. I think that these policies that are listed here are those that are required by the ABO.
I see. Okay.
Whereas a sexual harassment policy may be required in some other element, but not by the ABO.
There was a couple other ones.
There's a couple other ones. Yeah. I'm just trying to. We also did a video conferencing policy, which is not required, but
Chairman, usually the anti-harassment, anti-violence in the workplace. A few others similar to that.
maybe that's all in the personnel. Okay. All right.
Yeah, we do have those. Yeah.
Any other questions? Or is there a pleasure of the board for the of the corporation policies?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Jeremy. Is there a second?
Second.
Just
Yeah,
answer it.
second.
Went over you last time.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ray. Anything on the question? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. You, moving on then to number 7, election of officers for 2025 chair, vice chair, and treasurer.
Jump in for a sec. So I know we spoke about putting me in that spot. Would it be okay to suggest Nadine instead? I think she's more appropriate for it, after I thought we were talking about one of the committees when I read it real quick, so I apologize. But given her role as Office of Strategic Planning, and being more in the weeds with that, we work together constantly, and I'm still available for anything I could assist the board in. But I think in terms of wheelhouses, she could be a better position to serve the board and the interests of the board.
I didn't ask her, what do you think?
I'm here to
Nadine?
serve.
Did you just bring that on you?
I'm here to serve. I didn't say it. No, I'm just kidding.
We just felt because you're newer, we just didn't want to throw that on you all just, as soon as you sat down.
No, I've been here twice. It's my second time.
We worked anything that, we work together closely, constantly, and any getting Nadine up to speed with anything she's not already familiar with, but her knowledge is, so I think that will be impressed.
Well, you're stepping back, and Nadine, if you want to step up.
That's fine.
So then we just make that switch on the slate.
We can make that switch on the slate. And then I think you mentioned, Scott, that there's one more switch that you wanted to make with regard to the
When we get to the
subcommittees.
committees.
So do this one first.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yep.
So for the slate of officers for 2025, myself as chair, Nadine as vice chair, and Adam as treasurer. To the pleasure of the board. So motion made by Karen, thank you, seconded by Catherine. Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried, the slate approved, so then that would take us to number 8, election of committees.
Yes, so another change where we're dumping more on Nadine. So under real estate subcommittee, we would be moving, the suggestion is to move the chair position from Scott Bileski to Nadine Marrero chairing that subcommittee. And again, I think the intended point is just some balance between city and county with regard to the chairs of these subcommittees. Otherwise, the slate remains there as written.
And then we just have a typo for Karen. Want to make sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I called you Kathy when you walked in. Damn. Okay, Karen.
Oh, look at
And as it relates to the committees, and anybody have any comments, suggestions, anybody stepping down or stepping up?
Let's see, we have,
I think our thought was, before we made the switch, the vice chair was that Nadine would be good on real estate, but seeing how you're taking over the vice chair, Catherine, would you rather be the chair of the real estate subcommittee or Nadine, do you mind doing both?
I don't mind doing
Okay.
that. It's fine.
I don't want to overload you because I know you've been here twice.
That's enough. That's enough.
Well, it's been here twice, choose different positions.
Okay, well, I was want to be sensitive to that.
Anybody have anything else? If not, is there a pleasure of the board? So motion made by Catherine, seconded by Cavett. Is there Catherine with her hand up first on? That's what you're doing.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion approved and the as
yeah, thank you, Jerry.
changed or now. Brings us to number 9, authorize M&T Bank for the line.
Okay, so a couple of things to look at for this discussion. So page 11 of your package, we did bring this to the board last month as well. It is unchanged. So this is the M&T, the proposed terms for a line of credit. The other thing you'll want to take a look at for this discussion is here on the table in front of you, our 2025 cash flow schedule. So I just want to direct your attention to where to look on this schedule. So if you, all the way to the bottom, if you look at where it's the orange line for total billed to date, and then the gray line for owner billings, and then move over to March 2025. So if you look at owner billings, March 2025, you can see that what we're expecting from BCC at the end of this month is a bill for an invoice for $3,067,995. That's ballpark. That's not exact at this point, but this is something BCC put together for us, a cash flow schedule for this entire year. So we're looking at receiving that invoice at the end of March, and then you can kind of follow it through the rest of the course of 2025, billing at just about plus or minus $1 million a month for the next few months after that, and then going up to about 1.4 million in August, 1.4 in September, October, November, and then down to $1 million in December. So these are the monthly invoices that we can expect from BCC. So that kind of leads into our thought about the board authorizing a line of credit. So I want to provide some more information because the board asked some questions last time, wanted to make sure that we went back and we got those answers for you. So if you look at page 11, there's a 1-year line and a 2-year line. And we went back and talked to M&T. A best practice would likely be taking on a 1-year line of credit. And it also goes to answer both our counsel's question as well about the level of collateral required for a 1-year or a 2-year line of credit. So I want to confirm that if BENLIC were to authorize, if the board authorized a line of credit and actually opened it, right? Not just the authorizing, but actually opening the line. And let's say this 1-year line would be approximately $1 million. Our assets, BENLIC collateral would be quote unquote frozen. You know, they would set aside $1 million of BENLIC assets to ensure that that line can be paid back. So I wanted to confirm that that was a question. We don't just open a line of credit. Essentially, the line can be opened, but they also need to isolate $1 million of our assets to make sure that the line can be paid back. So that's an answer to question number one.
Isolate or secure?
Well, secure, I'm sorry, maybe I don't have the wrong term, but that money, we would be allowed to continue to, for example, purchase a CD. We can continue to have a treasury bill with M&T, but we would not be able to spend that money, you know, that $1 million during the course of the time that we have our line of credit open. So that's just something that the board should know. And then I can try to answer any questions with regard to day-to-day expenses if you're comfortable with that at all. But there would be a kind of that isolating that $1 million to ensure that the line could be paid back. The second,
it is actually segregating the assets in addition to being secured to it. It's segregating it so they can't be touched.
correct. The entire time the line is open, yes. So going on a 1-year rather than a 2-year term, every year, you know, the board can determine whether or not they would want to continue having this line of credit open, and they would want to, you know, kind of if we needed access to that money, then we only have the line of credit for a year. So just a little bit more flexibility with a 1-year line than a 2, and also the interest rate is a little bit lower with a 1-year. So that's one question. The other question was, does this line of credit involve any additional expenses on BENLIC's part? The answer is that that BENLIC would be responsible for M&T's counsel to close the loan. So no closing costs, but there is a not to exceed of $6,000, which could be charged by M&T counsel to close the loan. So those are the extra expenses involved. So we did that work. We also finally, we went out, as Adam mentioned, to try and make sure that there was no better deal out there. And we did talk to Evans Bank, and Adam had a contact at Chase Bank, both of whom looked at these terms and said, you know, there are no lower terms. They felt that this was actually below market. So the terms are very good. So that being said, the reason that we might want to open this, and I'm not trying to honestly push one way or the other, it's completely a board decision, is because of this cash flow schedule. And I guess maybe if we can get an update of, county, the flow of these ARP monies and city, whether we will be able to comfortably pay these bills as they come in. And if the board wants the flexibility of being able to access the line if there's going to be any issue with this cash flow every month. So I think that's just where the flexibility of this line of credit could come in. On BENLIC's side, for the next year, staff believes we would not have any reason to access the line. We feel comfortable that all of our expenses can be met with our resources that we currently have. So BENLIC has no need for this line other than specifically making sure that our expenses are covered.
Is the cost again associated with the opening?
A not to exceed of $6,000 to pay the council.
To pay for the opening or the closing?
Well, I guess what I meant by closing was the work involved in opening the line. Yeah.
I didn't know if it was on the back end.
No, front
That
end.
was one of the things that cap of 6,000 was one of the things Chase definitely noted that they couldn't be with that cap. They thought that legal fees would be more than that just off the break.
So what's the asset that would be security?
That's gonna go.
So when we went over our audit and you saw that BENLIC, I'm just going to go back to it real quick, page 4, that BENLIC has $2.7 million cash on hand. That would be divided. We typically keep about 750,000 in our day-to-day unrestricted checking. The rest of the money is usually either in a CD or a T-bill. So we would be looking at basically using either that T-bill situation or CD situation to secure the line of credit. And I guess the only thing I'm thinking that what would I want to tell the board and what I want them to be comfortable with is that if BENLIC needs to pay an ARPA bill, it is using BENLIC's unrestricted funding to pay that ARPA expense. In other words, our ARPA money is separated. It's in totally different checking accounts. We do it proportionally, but if we did need to use the line, that line is drawing directly on BENLIC's unrestricted expenses, just to make the board aware of that. Not that it's wrong or right, just to make it clear. And we're not in a hurry either. So if you want to table this.
I would prefer to wait. I don't wanna-
So again,
I mean,
informational.
in the overall scheme of things, 6,000 is not a lot of money. However, it's still $6,000 that could be better used elsewhere. At least at this moment, especially if we're anticipating the city will be having, was approximately 7 million.
We've submitted the request to pay, but I can't say when that check would move.
So that's the 3 million will come due at the end of March. Proportionally, that's 1.5 million each. We have that money, county money. We don't have that city money yet. So
And so you anticipate by April 30th, because if the bill comes in March, you'd have to pay in April 30th, 1.5 million from the city ARPA money, which you don't currently have in hand.
not from the city, correct?
Ray, just knowing that the invoice went in to audit, would you have a concern about having to check to them by April 30th?
That really shouldn't take that long. Yeah. There's been some delays internally with audit, but that's really long.
Okay.
And you
Okay.
can, so
Yeah.
page 9 of the package, you can see the city of Buffalo ARPA account is at right now we have about 330,000. So that's what we have in hand.
So what we can do as the city, I would say, is go back and check on the status of that. And then next month, if we don't believe we're gonna make that payment on time, bring that to the board. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that might be a bit of a rush to open an account at that point, but That's what we can say right now.
Yeah.
We don't have I don't have a status I can give you at this minute to give you any more security. It was submitted. It was for a pretty large amount.
Yep.
But I think we can follow up and let you know. And then in 30 days or so, bring that back to the board.
Is there any expiration on them?
Well, so that's the only thing. Now, he did extend it, so these terms are the same as they were last month. I can't guarantee the terms would be the same if you wait. But again, there's no urgency necessarily to do this, so.
Can I ask, is the 6,000 the opening when you know when you sign the contract, they immediately charge it? Or is
Yeah.
it when you first draw?
Oh, that's a good question, but I would think I have the feeling that it would be right in the beginning to do the work, but I can confirm
Once the
that.
account is established, that's at closing, right? So that's
Correct.
upon, yeah,
Correct.
establishment of the,
Whether or not you
yeah,
draw.
would pay, yeah.
Exactly.
So I think the city's answer is we can't, as of today, I can't tell you that when our city payment is going to come through the door.
But that should be fast
It-
tracked as soon as, I mean, because
And-
that went in,
we've
that went
already-
in January, was it? Or was it a few,
That's Lisa.
okay.
We've already paid some of it, so this would be a secondary payment. It's right. You've already gotten an arbitrage, so it's not like the first one, which is always the hardest.
Yeah, we'll follow up.
We'll follow up.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
if we see a problem, we will let staff know in advance, and if there needs to be a one-off special meeting or something, give you that heads up as soon as possible.
What's the expiration of the terms?
Josh Heim from M&T just told me that they would extend through this board meeting. I didn't get an actual end after the board meeting.
On the first page, it says February 28th.
But then he
Okay.
extended it, right, for this meeting, yeah.
What are the terms on our treasury bills and our CDs? How long taking those out?
It all depends. It changes every month. So we work with two different people from M&T who work with me every month. Sometimes it's 1 month, sometimes 2, 3. It just depends on our planning, long-term planning. So it's always, we try not to lock anything up for too long.
I guess when you have those conversations, keep this kind of stuff in mind because we have the cash.
We
just
do.
don't necessarily have the cash flow, but that's because of where our money's invested.
Mhm.
So to take a loan out, pay the money for a loan, pay interest on the loan when we have the money just invested elsewhere. I think when you have those conversations, we need to be keeping the cash flow. And it's good to have a lot of our money invested, but we have too much invested. Now we got to take money out and we're borrowing at a higher cost than what we're invested at. That's kind of, when they talked about the collateral, that's where it got me thinking about this because if we got to restrict $2 million and put it in a CD to spend $2 million, we're still short on the cash flow then, you know what I mean? Ultimately. So I think when you start having these, now that we know we need to have more cash on hand, maybe we lower some of these treasury bills and these CDs so that we have the free cash around instead of going for a
And
lot.
towards that end, it would be nice to see what the laddering is. If we have, how much we have in 3 months, how much.
Oh,
we have in
sure.
1 month.
Yeah, I can start reporting that. It changes all the time.
It
Yep.
does become a little bit troublesome if we're hitting that kind of crunch.
Mhm.
And we don't know what's available when.
But you did just receive this cash flow schedule a
We
couple
did.
weeks ago.
Yes.
So it's a bit of an unanticipated $3 million.
Do you know how much we're getting for that thing? What our interest rate is?
Pretty good. Almost, maybe even a little over 4% still, but it's definitely been coming down. High 3s to low 4s. And so far it's been just as just as high on the short end as the long end. So we just keep it short. And that way, I work with John Zukleski at M&T and he calls me every month and just reminds us. And then we just kind of keep rolling it.
So it sounds like right now it's to table for the next meeting to
Okay.
find out a few things. Find out from the city as soon as possible, when that check can be released. Find out how long the terms are gonna be good for. And then also, what the structure is on the investments. Am I missing anything?
I think from the county's perspective, we can go look through that cash flow analysis and I know Zach's indicated that, we could free up more money, but we'll take a look at it, and I think we could, free up some more to amend the short-term cash flows. We just have to look at it.
Okay, thank you. Great. So then just a table for item 9, right? Okay.
So then we can move on to 10.
Sure. So the last page of your package.
Yeah.
Oh, motion to table. I'm sorry.
Or just leave it up there. If you want a motion, you can do that.
Yeah,
I think we motioned it last night, just to be overly cautious.
You want to make
Yeah,
a
a
motion?
motion table.
Is there a second?
Adam,
Nadine?
Nadine,
All in favor?
motion.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay.
Thank
This deal with you.
Okay, the last item, page 15 of your package. Basically, in order to meet our pivoted programmatic goals for our Cheektowaga work, we resubmitted the bid for 44 Long in Cheektowaga. And basically, it was really just to try to reduce costs. We reduced the square footage of the home, and I said the bid is still a stick build, correct? And not a modular. That's what came in. So you can see we resubmitted that bid, and we did receive 3 bids. From Buccilli Renovations, one from Sunset Custom Homes, and one from Burke Homes LLC. So those are the 3 bids in front of you. The lowest responsible bid, according to BENLIC staff, is Buccilli Renovations. We believe that Ryan does have the capacity to do the work. So we would recommend to the board for his approval. And we also have John Good here if the board has any questions at all about the proposal, the changes to the proposal, and his confidence in Buccilli to complete this project.
you. Was there anything large that stands out right now with the changes?
Basically, most of the changes are relatively minor. Probably the biggest thing is we removed the fence to bring costs down again. But other than that, it's gonna be essentially the same building. Other than the size with the new design. Because I dropped it from, I believe, 1,800 or 1,900 square feet down to just under 1,400 square feet. So it's now a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bathroom house.
And we don't have any concerns about Buccilli, because I know last month we went back and forth and the big concern was giving Buccilli too much work. And that's why we went with the higher bid last month. I just want to make sure.
No, I have no issues with it, but Chile has been doing a phenomenal job
Okay.
of new builds. Our rehabs are lagging a little bit, but we have reasons for that. New builds, he is flying through it.
And I do believe at least prior in the work up to this meeting, we really did submit a Gantt table as well.
He
To
did.
set forth when they think they can have certain.
That is correct.
Any questions or pleasure of the board? I'm good. Karen, motion made by Karen, is there a second? Second by Kavette. Motion by Karen, second by Kavette, anything on the question? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Executive Director's report.
Sure, just some brief updates on some of BENLIC's larger projects. So and for your benefit, because you're not too familiar yet. So our Adams Street infill initiative, we are building 12 new homes on Adams Street, which is City of Buffalo, just off Genesee Street between Genesee and Jefferson. Does that sound right? So 12 new homes, and we're making use of a program from New York State HCR, and that subsidizes $200,000 per unit. So 12 single-family homes, each subsidized at $200,000 each. So, and John, maybe if you want to just talk a little bit about progress at Adams, we seem to be running ahead of schedule, which is good.
My goodness.
Right?
We're These finished houses are 7th home, which is actually about 95% framed up. They've got to put the roof on it yet. We have a house at 590, which already has the electric hooked up to it. So essentially at this point, they're in the process of working on the 8th house. We have a hole dug to build another foundation, which will be the 9th one. We should have 2 more foundations put in next week. And then the 4th, which is the last 12th foundation, the week after. Barring any major surprises, I expect this project to be done by the end of next year at the latest.
You mean
Next year?
This year.
This year, sorry.
Make,
No, we, Chili is doing the job and he's doing a phenomenal job.
may I ask about how the timing, because at 95%, oh, that's just framing. But when are you gonna sell as they become complete?
Yeah, it's a lottery. The houses will be sold by lottery. The home sale price is set at just under, I think it's 242 or 243. So as a couple of houses come up, we're working with MMB. They're managing the entire sort of lottery process. They're qualifying buyers, and then we will sell them kind of as they get finished.
Has that started to occur, the advertising of the lottery and that sort of thing?
Well, where are we with MMB? Yeah, we're working on their contract and their scope. Yep, so it's in process. So
But when do you think the
present that.
first sale? I mean, just, I know it's a guess.
What do you think?
You are looking for the first house to be 100%.
So we could have June, I mean, super aggressively, June, July, someone moving in.
I think part of what we had discussed was creating essentially list of the lottery winners to where as the homes get ready, because we have 2 basic styles, ranch and 2-story. So as they become ready, we have a buyer already ready to purchase it.
And then the intent is sort of to repeat the lottery process with the ARP homes. So whatever process, and hopefully everybody will be happy with it, we will use the same lottery process to sell ARP homes too.
Just as a planning thing, if we can talk more separately about like, as we talk to community and it comes up, just
The lottery?
Yeah,
Voted.
yeah, just, we do a lot of neighborhood engagement, questions come up, that we have the right information to, as a planning staff, not as, this board.
At the end of the day, we're gonna be accused of not informing some people about the lottery and they're gonna be out of it. They'll be like, you never told us, no matter what.
My favorite complaint is, I didn't find out about this until I got this letter.
Yep.
I'm like, okay, yep, that's how you find out. So. Yes, but while we're out in town,
Yeah.
neighborhoods, if we're in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
I'd like the walkthrough completed.
Absolutely. I would expect what we'll do is as we get completed, I'd like to see if we can have like a ranch and a 2-story completed. That way you can get a walkthrough through each. Most of the 2 stories are very similar in style, so you'll be okay with seeing one of them. But yeah, as soon as we've got those, we'll make arrangements to bring the whole board through at the board's pleasure.
Great. And then just a brief update on our ARP work, and I'm going to turn that over to Ben Brown, who is our project manager for ARPA, which is a large task.
Yeah, well, it's been great. I think our working group, which consists of individuals from the county, city, and BENLIC, have been working at a weekly rate with Buffalo Construction Consultants as we finalized our blended program between modular and stick built. And just now it's been under 2 weeks since we executed our guaranteed maximum price to deliver 47 homes. And since that point, BCC has been going at a frantic pace, just going through material buy-up and securing subcontracts with all of their various trades people. I believe HHL is complete with all their redesigns of our 2-bedroom stick builts into 3 bedrooms. And I think is working with Nadine's office to fast track some of our first phases of permitting for those homes. I think we're at this point scheduled to do a groundbreaking on April 15th at 11 a.m. I don't think we've chosen a site yet. Nadine, have you heard anything yet on that?
I have not.
So I think we'll probably discuss that tomorrow. But certainly we'll let everyone know when that groundbreaking is scheduled, specific site, so we can have everyone participate. And then we kind of talked about it already, but our disbursement requests are in process with the city, and have one imminently going towards the county I think as we discuss the cash flow projections and maybe the availability of freeing up some more funds over that 2025, that is in our ARPA subrecipient agreement, which is $4.5 million.
And for Cheektowaga ARP, we have a potential groundbreaking as well, right?
For the 10th.
April 10th and April 15th. April 10th for Cheektowaga, April 15th for City of Buffalo ARP.
Are we gonna have those shows?
Yeah, always, or the big scissors.
Any
No, they just spent $1 million on lumber to try to, or I don't know if they've, the money's out of their account, but allegedly they executed a contract to purchase over land and lumber to avoid any tariff increases
And
to the
that,
best of their ability.
that's part of why there's that big 3 million payment.
That is exactly what.
Is to try to upfront the
Yeah,
cost
and
now
build-
while they're still known and predictable.
Will that, you think that will do it? Is it $1 million or $3 million?
Well, there's 3 million
So
you would
that-
anticipate, right?
That's certainly lumber, that's deposits for modular units. And I'm sure various other material commitments that they have to be outside of that. Frankly, I mean, and anyone else and Scott and Dan have been in our meetings, they're not too worried about significant tariff increases with these homes in particular. Just due to they're expecting it more with, you know, complex HVAC systems, large projects with structural steel. I just think maybe we are benefiting from a simpler.
The small scale of the houses make it manageable.
Okay.
10%, 5% increase can be
Yeah, that's a good
absorbed.
point.
That's it.
Jocelyn,
That's it. That's it. Thank you.
does anyone else on the board have any questions, comments, concerns? General gripes? Motion adjourned, so motion. Thank you. Meeting adjourned, thanks everyone.
Nappy, who do you know at National Grid? Well, thank you. That got
Yeah.
Woo!
Kathy,
Yeah.
or the lady.